And we all do it first and foremost by two breath patterns. The most simple, most powerful, and most transforming. Welcome to the Inward Practice. My name is Nistal. This is episode 2 of 5 of the Breath of Yoga, Fix Your Breath. And today I'm going to talk about the two breathing patterns that create stress. Let's go. But before we go into real physical, practical breath exercises, I need to lay the foundation for you. I want you to understand the importance of the breath, and I want you to understand how the breath works. So we've all heard of stress hormones as opposite to natural happiness hormones. So your breath is directly related to how you feel, right? Because your breath is directly related whether you're making stress hormones or happiness hormones. So, which are the two most inhibiting breathing patterns that most people do without being aware of it? It creates stress for them, little to no energy, and in the long term, it's gonna lead to a burnout. It's gonna lead to confusion in the mind, chaos in the mind, stress in the body and mind. It's not what you want. So, the two most inhibiting breathing patterns that almost all people apply unconsciously is this. One, people minimize the breath. They breathe in just a little bit and then also they breathe out just a little bit. And I will explain in this video why that is, what the effect of that is. So one is the minimizing of the breath, and number two is the halting, the stopping of the breath, the pausing of the breath. So there's many times during a day that people do these two, that people apply these two patterns. And it is for the same reasons, more or less. So when people have conflicts or a lot of worries, or their boss calls them into the office, well, there's a lot going on in the job, or your partner is being angry with you, or something happens to your child, or there's many reasons and moments that we feel stress. And stress per se is not a bad thing. It is a normal thing of life. So, and also if you need to perform, a little bit of stress is just very good, because it makes you to be sharp, present, aware, alert. But when your partner is angry with you and starts to raise their voice or starts to complain or nag to you, most probably, ask yourself, what will happen to your breath? What will you do with your breath? Most probably you will not very relaxedly fully breathe in and relaxedly breathe out. No. If there's kind of an experience of overwhelm of overwhelm of emotions from outside people, situations, then we do not take that in maximum. We take that in a little bit, just how far we can take it with our mind, with our breath, with our body, with our energy. So you're probably going to minimize your breath in one way or another, and maybe a little bit, maybe a lot, depending on the intensity, depending on how you feel in the moment anyway. So, depending on how much you trust the person, feel safe with the person, it has many factors, of course. But by minimizing your breath, by not inhaling fully, you are not taking that energy, that emotion in. You're not taking it in. You're not breathing it in. You're not allowing it in. You're minimizing it by minimizing your breath, your inhale. So, if I inhale less, I feel less. I feel less overwhelmed. So, by minimizing the breath, we minimize our experience, the intensity that helps us to react more adequately to the situation, to the person, without being triggered too much ourselves. So it's a short-term strategy which normally really works. So it's not per se bad, right? The thing is, this can become such a pattern of dealing with other people's intensity, with other people's emotions, that you become accustomed to, and it becomes like an unconscious breathing pattern to not inhale fully, completely. You minimize inhale. Now, like I just said, it helps you to react more adequately. But is that really true? Because if you don't inhale completely, you're also not really completely exhaling, because you can only exhale as much as that you have been inhaling, and actually a little bit less, in a matter of speaking, because there is always a residue remaining in your lungs of breath, of air, because on your exhale you never empty your lungs completely. Yeah. So your inhale is small, your exhale is small. Now, why is that going to be a thing? Well, it's a thing because when your exhale is small, and I touched upon this in episode 1 also already, is that it diminishes, it minimizes your self-expression. Because when you are inhibiting, limiting your exhale, you're actually limiting your self-expression. Yeah? Because that all happens on the exhale. And it's not just talking, but it's also literally tension, stress that we're releasing with each exhale. I teach people what a letting go exhale really is, and how it feels and what it does to them. But a lot of people have lost that knowledge, that wisdom, and that natural way of breathing. The inhale and the exhale is an exchange with existence, with people, with situations, with life, right? With the whole of existence. And very clearly, my exhale is being inhaled by trees and plants, and even by other people, animals. You know, it all goes through the air. Through the air, we're all connected anyway. But then the exhale of trees and plants and plankton in the sea, is for us oxygen, is inhale. So it's really beautiful how life has set it up. Um, and so we should never worry about the carbon dioxide in the air is a natural ingredient and is actually nourishment for plants and trees to grow. It will help them. And when they grow, they give us oxygen so we can grow and be healthy. So, no worries. Even to the point, in your brain, there's a continuous checking of the things going on. And so, you need also to understand that your next inhale comes from the amount of carbon dioxide in your blood. So let me repeat that. Your next inhale is being driven by the amount of carbon dioxide in the blood. There has to be a certain amount, otherwise your inhale is not really happening. The impulse of the inhale is not coming, right? So don't be afraid of carbon dioxide. Yeah. All right. So bringing it back to stress. Yeah. So when your inhale is small, when there's a continuous shortage of oxygen and life force energy, the body cannot function properly. Your mind cannot function properly. Your heart cannot function properly. I mean, I get a lot of people with heart palpitations because they minimize the breath. They have closed this part of, well, in this area of your body, there are stored many, many stress factors, yeah? Traumas, pains, love not being answered, not being seen, not being heard, not being respected for who you really are, And so there's a lot of tension and survival strategy around the heart. We cannot continuously walk around with pain, 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 pain. So we have found ways to numb ourselves, to build walls around our mind, our body, our energy, our heart energy. We close our hearts off, we close our minds off. We do many things. And we all do it first and foremost by 2 breath patterns. I'm just repeating here. Minimizing the breath, stopping the breath. Minimizing the breath, stopping the breath. And over time, that will create problems for your health. So the brain has all noticed it and it says to your glands, there's an emergency, make stress hormones. So you start to make adrenaline and cortisol. You get that in your blood and your breath even becomes higher. You start to use the extra help muscles for your breathing. You start maybe even to breathe with your shoulders. Yeah, to at least have some breath and oxygen and energy flowing around your system. but then you're already in big, 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 big problems. So, in the chronic breath patterns of shortage, minimal breath, and pauses in the breath, um, how should I say it? It's gonna put you into fight, flight, or freeze state of mind, state of being. So you will see danger everywhere. You will feel annoyed and irritated and frustrated everywhere. You're gonna fight it, or you're gonna flight. You're gonna fly. You're gonna run away from confrontations and anything because you feel you're so vulnerable and easily triggered. Or freeze, you just become apathic, and you may help that process by numbing yourself with the use of substances so you don't have to feel it, which will make you even more apathic. And so when you are short of breath, when you have some insight into the fact that your breath is not free, learn to work with the breath. Fix your breath. I can help you with it. So, what happens when we do the conscious connected breathing, which is the technique, is also called rebirthing, which is the technique that I am using for myself and my clients for over 33 years now. I have found it to be the most simple, most powerful, and most transforming breathing technique that exists. Everybody can do it. It's not difficult. When you learn that and when you apply that breathing technique, you don't even have to go in all the reasons of your stress, in all your traumas. You can with the breath, but you don't have to. Just learn to change your breathing pattern. Because your breath pattern, as we saw in episode 1, is connected to your physical body, your mental body, your emotional body, your energy body. The breath is penetrating everything and is trying to create balance. So for the people with hyperventilation, let me tell you this. If you have had some hyperventilation and panic attacks, it's just an effort of your system to restore the balance. Because you're out of balance. You're out of balance between inhale, exhale. You're out of balance between thinking and feeling. You're out of balance between doing and being. You're out of balance in so many ways. And it all comes back to the breath. And the breath can restore harmony, can restore the balance. It will. So, learn to work with the breath. Do breath work. Come and do a couple of sessions. I cannot say it enough, It will be a pleasure for the rest of your life, right? It is something that you learn and you will never forget, like brushing your teeth. Yeah? Yeah. Once you know how to breathe in more healthy patterns, that will change so much in your mind, in your body, in your relationships, because it affects everything. Let me tell you again, your breath affects everything. You need some sources of energy, don't you? You need food a couple of times a day. I mean, you can do a little while without, couple of days or weeks even, but it's gonna create some rather disbalance in your body. You're gonna need water. You're gonna need sunlight. You're gonna need love. But without air, without breath, just a few minutes, and it's all over. So, understand that you're breathing for life. Your life depends on your breath. Very quickly, very directly. So, I wanted to say, once you learn the right breathing technique, the conscious connected breathing technique, also called rebirthing, after about 10 minutes of applying that technique, finally your body gets enough oxygen. Finally your energy body gets enough prana, life force energy. Finally you get really well nourished. And also because your whole breath pattern has improved, also your exhale, we're not just talking inhale, but also your exhale, you are finally releasing tensions as an energy, as an emotion. You're releasing toxics because the detoxification of the cells in your body happens a lot under the influence of oxygen. Is absolutely needed. So after about 10 minutes, the brain notices, oh my goodness, we're not in emergency anymore. Something good is happening here. Relaxation. So you start to make different hormones. We call them happiness hormones. They are relaxation hormones. You start to make serotonin, dopamine, and you start to feel more and more and more relaxed in the course of your breathing session. And these effects of the breath, of the breathing session, they last for hours, days, and weeks. And if you manage to transform your breathing pattern, which is not that difficult, you will transform yourself, because with it, you will transform your mind, you will transform your energy, you will transform your emotional expressions. The main purpose of my breath work with people is to help you break the two patterns that create stress, which is the minimizing of the breath and the holding in of the breath. And the holding in, it happens mostly after the exhale, but some people do it after the inhale, and some people do it both after the inhale and the exhale. But that's a little bit too detailed for now. Just start to observe your breath if you can, if you want. Yeah. So it is my purpose to help you break those patterns. It is my purpose to help you expand your breath, to breathe in all areas where you could bring the breath. Most simply in the belly, in the chest, but also your flanks, your side of the ribs, and also the back of the body. There's also expansion and contraction happening. So actually you need to learn to breathe 3D, in 3 dimensions, 3 directions, into all directions, that is actually. Yeah. So I will help my clients to expand the breath. I will see where they're not breathing. Sometimes they don't feel it themselves. A lot of people have locked themselves out of their hearts and then they get lost in life. They don't feel the deeper meaning. They don't feel that life makes sense anymore. They get lost in the mind. So I help them with that. And so expounding the breath and also learning to continue the breath. So to learn to breathe in a fluent, flowing way. Inhale flows over into the exhale, and the exhale flows over into the inhale without pauses, but also without rush. There's no hurry, there's no rush. We're going to do long, slow, deep inhales in the beginning and long, slow, relaxed exhales. That will change everything. For me, it sounds so logic and simple. And if you've never worked with your breath, this might seem a little bit far-fetched. I don't know. But yeah, I would say the best thing you can do for yourself is give yourself a series of breathing sessions and learn to breathe more healthy. Improve your inhale, improve your exhale, and improve the transitions from inhale to exhale, from exhale to inhale. And so when the breath becomes like in a flow-like state, without the holding, without the pauses, so it's gonna be an ongoing flowy rhythm, right? So when that starts to happen, then also you and your life and your experience of your life will become much more flow-like, much more fluent, much more easy, much more rhythmic. Yeah? You will feel so much better. I cannot even tell you how much better. But the best thing you can do is come and experience it yourself. Yeah, so you will be able to join me for online breathing sessions, and of course the one-on-one in person here in my practice. They are the best, but that might not be for everyone depending on where you live. I live half an hour from Amsterdam, so just so you know. If you're interested, send me an email, and you can go to my website, which I always show on screen at the end of the video. Yeah, and you can also look in the description under this video. All right, so this is it for now. You want to make happiness hormones, yeah, and feel good and have clarity of mind and have lots of energy, but have relaxed energy, right? All right, that's it for now, and see you next week for episode 3 of the Breath of Yoga. Fix your breath. Namaste.